Hello and welcome to this webinar on how to quickly find and fix MySQL and MariaDB performance issues. My name is Sri Nair, and in this webinar, I'll be demonstrating SQL Diagnostic Manager for MySQL and MariaDB and the different benefits of the tool that makes you better at monitoring the performance of your MySQL and MariaDB servers. So let's begin with a brief on the tool. SQL DM for MySQL is an agentless on-premise MySQL and MariaDB monitoring tool that gets up and running within 2 minutes. It is cloud ready and works well with all flavors of standard and hosted MySQL. It is easy to use, and even users with no prior MySQL experience can find helpful insights within minutes. And with this tool, you can monitor your critical databases proactively rather than hunting and pecking for speed with other monitoring solutions. Let me just quickly log into the live demo instance of SQL DM for MySQL. As soon as you are logged in, the overview page provides a high-level picture of all the servers registered with the tool. Below the count of the total servers registered, total number of disconnected servers, and servers having critical alerts and warnings, you will find the top 10 queries across all the servers registered based on the total execution time. So the queries with the longest execution times are positioned at the top of the list, giving you an immediate place to start looking at bottlenecks. You can click on a query to get more details. This gives the list of server names on which the particular query was executed. Clicking on the server names will open the sniffer for that server with the time range selected as the first and last scene of the query. So you would be able to see which query is getting executed on what server that is causing the performance degradation for your MySQL environment. And in one click, you would be able to see the query details and the query plan of that particular query, so that you can take immediate actions and tweak this particular query to provide the best performance for your MySQL servers. We ship SQL DM with what we call 600 plus best practices and monitors, and they come right out of the box, constantly monitoring your MySQL servers. So the moment you install and point the tool to your server, it will constantly apply these monitors and alert you when things start going wrong. For example, we have dozens of security advisors, and the advisors can tell you if you have given super privileges to many users that you don't really have to. Also, the default MySQL installation isn't so secure, so our security advisors can address that pretty quickly. Also, you have the capability to add your own advisors with your own MySQL-based threshold values. We have business partners like MariaDB and Procona, and they constantly and continuously deploy SQL DM for MySQL and MariaDB on the field. While doing so, they keep sending feedback based on their experience, and that helps us to constantly and consistently update these advisors and add new ones which are in sync with the latest MySQL developments. All these advisors are written in JavaScript, so you can go ahead and customize them. Nothing is hidden. All the data we collect through the monitors or whatever data this particular tool is collecting is stored in an embedded SQLite database, which can be used for history and trend analysis. We have customers who manage about or more than 500 servers per hosted Linux commodity server, and the way we store this data is what we call app level compression, which means that between two successive collections, if nothing has changed, then we will not store that metric again. So using this algorithm, we end up having very compact data for your history and trend analysis, so that you can be very compact on the storage. Real-time monitoring is what you need when you want to see what's happening to your server in real time. I will just load a saved session to demonstrate the metrics it collects. So what is happening in the background is real-time continuously executes a bunch of queries on your servers and fetches information on the top queries, top tables, the databases, users, hosts, queries that are logged, queries that are locking, etc. Since the information is retrieved in real time, you get to see what your server is up to at any point in time. So real-time monitoring can be done in either process list mode or performance schema mode. In process list mode, the show full process list query is executed every second to fetch the queries. And in performance schema based real time, the tool makes use of the performance schema database of the MySQL server. So performance schema database logs each and every query in its table. So the tool queries a performance schema and retrieves the queries, including the short-lived ones. So with performance schema based real time, you can get extra information like number of full table scans done by the query, error and warning count for each query. And if there is a query that has been executed for less than a second and is causing a log, and your performance of the database is going low, you would be able to figure out those queries by using the performance schema mode real time. At the same time, if you would like to see if there are any table logs at a particular point in time, you can just load all of those details in a graphical format here, and you would be able to drill down to the granular details. For example, in this saved session, I can just drill down on a spike and see which were the queries that were contributing to the table logs. And I can pretty much click on that query and see what has been going on. If there is no real-time information like this, you would have to go through a lot of problems and actually wait for the problem to occur and then do a post-mortem exercise to figure out how can you optimize the queries that are degrading the performance. But if you find any performance patterns and you see that there has been a dip in MySQL Server performance, you can turn on real time for that particular time period and see what query is actually causing the problem. And you could avoid being reactive and start fixing things proactively so that your customers do not notice a glitch. So as a DBA, as I said, if you would figure out that the performance of your MySQL servers have been degrading at a specific time, just go ahead and record a real-time session to nail the cause of performance degradation. And I'm sure you'll be surprised by the ease of finding the problem, which perhaps could have taken weeks, days, or in some cases, months. But note that the real-time monitoring is best for short debugging sessions because it does place some overhead on your database servers. SQLDM for MySQL lets you capture queries using multiple endpoints. For instance, you can analyze queries from the general query log. So general query log will capture all the queries. Also, it lets you capture queries from a slow query log. If you do not want to be very obtrusive and do a non-obtrusive query analysis, Sniffer can take a dump of show full process list every second and store in the embedded SQLite repository, and then the tool can run reports on that, clean up literals, group queries to do great reporting for you. However, when you are doing general query log analysis, you should not be turning the general query log on for a longer period of time because it puts a bit of overhead on your MySQL servers. Only when you have to capture the short-lived queries and have a complete range of queries that could be causing the performance degradation, turn on the general query log, more or less like real-time sessions where you just have to debug a particular thing and then turn it off and use the other query analysis modes. So like the overview page, query analyzer screen also displays the average latency and the total time taken by each query to execute. In addition, you will find the user and host who executed the particular query. So you will be able to see all the information which is consistent with the view that we saw from overview drill down earlier. It's just that you would be able to add more details to get more granular details about a particular query so that you can you can tweak a particular query, and you know when to tweak it and what performance improvements will that have. Also, SQL Diagnostic Manager provides a bird's eye view of your data tier and avoids the visibility gap. You can see how your databases are keeping up with the production demands and monitor spent resources like CPU and disk IO, along with the problematic queries before something goes terribly wrong. So the identification of issues deep inside your servers always carries the potential to be either long-lasting or temporary. It's essential that you go back in time and spot trends to uncover any hidden, occasional, or chronic problems. So with custom dashboard, you would be able to create a custom dashboard as well to capture and chart the metrics that matters to you the most. You can also blow up a particular chart and drill down to a point in time to gather granular details. I'll just show you that quickly. You can just blow up a particular chart from here and have a holistic view of the metric, how it has been changing over a period of time. There are quick time ranges to go back in time and see what has been the change. And also you have an option to sort the details available here so that you can narrow down to the metric that matters to you the most, rather than being in the dark and figuring out what has been going wrong. So a good view that allows you to keep a close eye on the metrics that matters to your MySQL environment the most, and customize it however you would like it, which I think is very powerful. You also have an option to track and compare server configurations. And this is pretty unique to a SQL DM. No other monitoring tool currently provides this capability. If you have a set of servers that are of different versions and some servers have performance problems, the performance degradation cause could be the difference in the configuration of servers. So using this feature, you can see a side-by-side difference in the configuration of servers with one single click. You can also track the configuration changes over a specific time range to see when did the change occur and was it expected or not. We come across a lot of users where multiple DBAs are working across the different MySQL or MariaDB servers, and there are external consultants also working at the same time. They would change the configurations of the server, and when the external consultants are gone, the in-house DBA staff would not know when was the configuration of different servers were changed. So to make at least an assumption that the inconsistency in the server configuration is causing the performance degradation. So rather than assuming things, you can just come here and track any changes that happen to a particular server. In this case, it's MariaDB master server. And it's just showing me the time ranges and the variables at which a particular change occurred in terms of the configuration of the server. So if it is expected, it's fine. If it's not expected, it's time to roll back to make it consistent with the other configurations of different servers. In the recent years, there has been a marked need for more sophisticated tools due to increased internal and external security and auditing policies, for instance, GDPR. So both MariaDB and MySQL implement auditing via native plugins. These are fully configurable and may record database activities in a variety of formats. The resulting log files may be read directly or analyzed by a tool such as a SQL Diagnostic Manager. So SQL Diagnostic Manager is able to pull all of this information and provides a summary of failed logins, failed events, schema changes, data changes, and stored procedures, as well as fields such as username, host, operation, database, and table query, all within an easy to read tabular format. So you could actually take a look at the audit log file in a nice graphical view before you actually export it and do reporting on it. If you do not have such interface, all you will be doing is writing scripts either on command line or in some other tools that MySQL and MariaDB provides, but you will not be able to see a holistic view of how the auditing information looks like for your MySQL or MariaDB environment. Also, as your businesses grow, you keep adding more number of databases, and it's pretty common that you would keep adding more resources or hardware to keep up with the growth spurt. But to do that efficiently, it's important that you get information in terms of the disk usage for the databases that you have deployed. So Monio provides you the ability to drill down from the database level to a table level. So you would be able to see or spot if the indexing size is going above the data size, because developers are very keen on indexing, and there will be some queries that will be just running unnecessarily because of a lot of indexing and will be degrading the performance of your servers. So it's good to keep the index size way below the data size, and index size should not be contributing more to the data or total size ratio. So I can drill down to the table level to see what type of indexing is going on and what is the contribution of that to the total size. And if it is inappropriate, I can go to the developer and ask to remove some of the indexing which are just getting used unnecessarily, so that the disk space gets freed up and we are able to use more of the system resources, and we are just not adding additional hardware. So if you have such visibility, you would be able to do the provisioning of your systems pretty effectively and efficiently, rather than just adding more number of boxes. Also, it is very essential to see the settings for being proactively monitoring the MySQL environment. For example, if there are some long-running queries that I do not want to keep, I do not want them to keep running for a longer period of time, and I want the tool to take some action or either notify me about that particular query, you could change the sniffer settings within the tool and select the process list sniffing mode and just turn on long running query option, which will allow you to put a filter in for some of the queries if you would like to ignore that are long running by either users or by host. You could do that. At the same time, you could provision the tool to notify you of any long running queries, so that you could take action before it becomes worse at a later point in time. So this is about being proactive rather than reactive, where you know that a query has been running for a longer period of time and you have done nothing about it, but when it completely does the damage, you do the post-mortem exercise and try to remedy the situation, and that's not an effective way to monitor your MySQL server performance. So you could pretty much configure the tool to notify you about a particular long-running query and kill the query at the same time. So some DBAs would like to kill the queries by themselves, or they would not like the tool to kill the queries. In that case, you could just be notified about a particular query, so that particular long-running query, so you can take action as a human. And there are different notification channels that you can enable, which are pretty standard and are widely used by many of the DBAs. So this provides you the ability to proactively start monitoring your databases. It doesn't matter that you are an expert MySQL DBA or a novice MySQL DBA. It will provide you insights about your environment right away, so that you could at least know where to spend your time, rather than wasting your time in figuring out how to do the MySQL database administration. SQL GM provides a topological view of the replicated servers, and it's nicely color coded to figure out the state of the replicated server, which ranges from the server stable to server not connected. So you could pretty much be visible on the status of the servers. And at the same time, if you would like to see more details about the replicated servers, you could just select table of parameters and it will show you the standard parameters for replicated servers that are pretty much essential to know what the state of the slave and the master. If the slave is running behind master and there's a lot of delay, then you can either be alerted or you could come here and see what has been the situation if you notice any problems, and you would have to change some parameters within the replicated setup to make sure that master and slave are completely in sync. If you would like to do a complete drill down of the parameters that master and slave replication would project, you could select all parameters within the tool to see all the parameters that you would typically see within other monitoring tools or optimizing tools. So a handy information to see the state of your replicated servers. I would encourage that you spend more time on it so that you can understand how easy it is compared to the traditional tools that are available to monitor the replication. So last but not the least, if you need a complete MySQL monitoring system with early warning mechanisms, and if you're tired of using expensive, unreliable monitoring tools, download a free trial of SQL Diagnostic Manager for MySQL today, and we promise that you will never look back. And this brings me to the end of this presentation. Feel free to get in touch with our marketing for any technical questions that you have on this particular webinar. Thank you for having me, and everybody have a good one. Bye now.